Yo, how's it going? Ever since the beast form debuted, a lot of people have been asking the same question. What is the true origin of this transformation? I've seen countless theories floating around, with all kinds of elaborate explanations trying to explain how Gohan obtained this power. But as you already know, Dragon Ball usually doesn't rely on extremely complex concepts when it comes to transformations. Most of the time, the explanations are much simpler than they seem. Ultra Instinct was one of the few exceptions, receiving a much more detailed development. And that's exactly why many fans hope that this new stage of the story will finally provide a better explanation for Gohan's beast form. But let me tell you right now, the answer may be much simpler than most people imagine. If you pay close attention, beast form follows the exact same logic as Goku and Vegeta's divine forms. What do you mean? Does Gohan have divine power too? No, that's not what I'm saying. When Goku achieved the Super Saiyan God form, he reached an entirely new level of power. Later, by combining that divine power with Super Saiyan, he unlocked Super Saiyan Blue. In other words, Blue is simply the Super Saiyan transformation applied on top of the God state. And the same thing happens with Gohan. Beast form would be the Saiyan transformation applied on top of Ultimate. Exactly. This becomes even more evident in chapter 102 of the manga, where Gohan makes the order of his transformations very clear. I always tell you that Dragon Ball often follows the principle of showing instead of explaining. Take a look. First, Gohan appears in his base form. Then, he transforms into Super Saiyan. Next, he activates Ultimate. And only after that does he reach Beast form. But what exactly is Ultimate? Even though characters like Goten refer to it as a transformation, I've always viewed Ultimate more as a special state. It's a state in which Gohan completely unlocks his hidden power without needing to transform. If you go back to the Majin Buu saga, you'll see that Old Kai makes this very clear. According to him, there was no reason for Gohan to continue relying on transformations because in that state, he could access his full potential without suffering the typical drawbacks associated with transformations. And what are those drawbacks? Mainly energy consumption and stamina drain. That's why Old Kai says that the transformation itself is not the most important part. And it's interesting to notice that today, Whis tells Goku something very similar, encouraging him to use his full power directly in his base form. In other words, this concept of accessing maximum power without depending on transformations actually started with Gohan. In short, Ultimate, which has received even more attention in recent material, represents Gohan's fully unlocked base form. By doing this, he eliminates the problem of transformation multipliers that consume energy and stamina. That's why Ultimate has always been an extremely efficient state. The complete opposite of something like Super Saiyan 3. And this is where everything starts to make sense. Gohan's Ultimate state earned that name because it represents the maximum amount of power his base form can handle without relying on transformations. But what happened after the Majin Buu saga? Gohan stopped training, and as a result, his base form began to weaken. The state that had once been the most powerful point of his life gradually deteriorated until he lost the ability to access Ultimate altogether. That is exactly what we saw in Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F. His body was simply no longer capable of sustaining the amount of energy required to access that power. Later, however, Gohan returned to training. Even though Dragon Ball Super didn't show all of that training in detail, there are several indications that he continued preparing himself behind the scenes. And as he rebuilt his body and strengthened his power, he regained that dormant potential. The result was Beast form, and that alone is proof that Gohan trained. After all, in order to handle such an enormous amount of energy, you need a body that is properly prepared. This is exactly what happened when the Saiyans evolved from Super Saiyan to Super Saiyan 2, and later to Super Saiyan 3. Beast form emerges when Gohan surpasses the limit of Ultimate. Remember, Ultimate represents the maximum amount of power he can release through his base form. To move beyond that point, he must break through that barrier. And the result of breaking that barrier is Beast form itself. Do you see how the concept really isn't that new? But then another question arises, why the name Beast? Because this transformation emphasizes Gohan's Saiyan side, the beast that exists within him, and that is a brilliant idea. Throughout the entire series, Gohan has always unleashed massive bursts of power whenever he felt threatened or saw someone important in danger. That characteristic has always been a fundamental part of his personality. But what about the white hair? In my opinion, that's simply an aesthetic choice. I don't believe there's any hidden or mysterious meaning behind the color. Therefore, beast form is basically the Saiyan transformation of Ultimate. The difference is that it uses power multipliers, just like Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, and Super Saiyan 3. And what I feel is that the creators will develop this transformation the same way they've been handling Ultra Instinct. The focus now shouldn't be a brand new transformation. The focus should be evolution, mastery, and refinement. Gohan himself states that Piccolo helped him learn to control this form. Today, he can already activate and deactivate it whenever he wants, but I believe this is only the beginning. From this point forward, we'll see Gohan exploring new aspects of beast form and discovering just how far this power can truly go. But that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video, and now I want to hear your opinion. Do you interpret beast form the same way? Does this explanation make sense to you? Let me know in the comments below. And once again, thank you so much to everyone who stayed with me until the end. Take care, thank you all, and I'll see you in the next video.